Yesterday, Israeli Minister Karina El-Hara put in a formal complaint to the UN after she was unable to attend Glasgow's COP26 summit, simply due to the fact that there was no wheelchair accessibility.
Well, the incident highlights the sad reality experienced by millions with disabilities and, even more shockingly, the disability pay gap, which in this country means that they will essentially be working for free for the rest of the year.
Well, campaigner and entrepreneur Shani Dhanda is trying to change this by demanding equal treatment for people with disabilities. And today, on Purple Tuesday, she's here in the studio. We've got lots to talk about because
Welcome.
we're going to talk about your app, we're going to talk about that astonishing pay difference. But also, I just want to start with that Israeli minister who had issues with their wheelchair access at COP26. And we saw that story this morning and thought, how the hell can you get it wrong there?
Exactly, and I think it's just a brilliant example of how actually it's not our conditions and impairments that disable us. It's the society that we live in, you know, the inaccessible world, transport, places that we live and work in, but also the decision makers that design spaces, that choose to hire people. There's so much bias and prejudice in the way in which we think. And essentially, it's ableism.
Yeah, and these statistics, I mean, they speak for themselves, really. That's nearly 1 in 5 of the UK workplace are disabled, but 1 in 3 people see disabled people as being less productive than non-disabled people. Disabled people are twice as likely to be unemployed compared with non-disabled people, and it costs more to be disabled, an average of £583 a month more, and they earn less, on average 2 months less pay a year than non-disabled people. I mean, I wasn't aware of these facts. To me, this seems extraordinary. You are well aware of this, but how does that feel?
Looking at the stats, you know, it's so bleak. And then for my personal situation, I'm also a woman of colour. So the pay gaps and the employment gaps are even wider. So it's layers of multiple different marginalisation. And I think where people fall down is I experience the world through a very intersectional lens. You know, there's much more to me than just living with a condition. But any approach to inclusion only just wants to put you in one box. So that's where it's really difficult. But the stats are very bleak, and I think that's a problem in itself. People aren't aware of the prevalence. People aren't aware, really, of the reality of how difficult it is to live in an inaccessible world.
So, essentially, that pay difference means that anyone living with a disability stopped earning yesterday, on the 1st of November.
Yeah. Who would work for free for 2 months?
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you've got extra costs.
So what was life like? I mean, we'll come to is in a moment, but when you were a child, because I know that you want to thank your mum, because your mum is amazing, but what was life like in your community?
Sure. So I was born and raised in a very big South Asian community, one which I'm very grateful to be part of, but was also sometimes quite difficult because disability faces an even further sense of stigma in the South Asian community. And I don't know why, but that attitude hasn't really changed, where in other parts of society we have really progressed. I guess growing up, I didn't really know any different, right? I was born with a rare genetic condition, which meant that my bones break without any trauma. And that was just the norm for me. But it's really taught me a lot about life, and I look at things in a much different way. And I'm really glad, really, for that insight.
It was interesting to read this morning that actually living with this condition that you have makes you quite a unique person, actually. It makes you unique to anybody's workforce because you think outside the box, because you've had to adapt.
Absolutely. I have to figure out how I'm going to reach my kitchen cupboards. You know, when I go into a shop and want to buy clothes, I can't just wear them off the rail. Every single bit of my life has to be planned and designed in a way that's accessible to me. So, yeah, if we think about that and how that translates into skills, disabled people are so resilient, resourceful. We're amazing problem solvers because it's how we have to navigate the world that we live in.
But you have a fantastic brain. You're a tech entrepreneur. Yet, with your savvy, knowledge, intelligence, you found it incredibly hard to get a job because of one line on your application letter.
Yeah, so at the age of 16, you know, I had just started college. I wanted just to be like everybody else. I wanted my own money, my own independence, and I started to apply for jobs. And I just had one sentence on my covering letter that said, I've got a condition, but it doesn't affect my ability to do this role. You know, I have a very visible condition. I have a short stature. I'm 3'10". I thought, why don't I be the person to address it? You know, let's get all the awkwardness out of the way. I was so naive to think that that was a good thing to do, because sadly, I just didn't hear anything back. And
Was it 100?
Over
applications?
100
Nothing
jobs.
happened?
And I'd got to that point, I thought, what's going on? I've got the skills, I've got all my, you know, GCSEs, I want to work. Surely that should be enough.
How's that feel?
Honestly, at the age of 16, it just made me feel that I would never be an equal or valued member of society. I actually, you know, thought, am I ever going to be able to live the life that I want to live independently? And I hate saying this, but I always used to think, oh, I'm always going to have to live with my parents, and who's going to die first, me or them? Nobody, no 16-year-old should ever have to think like that.
You took the line out and
Took the
things
line
changed.
out, got offered an interview and a job straight away. So I think that experience really changed my mindset, and I thought, right, life's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
People are going to judge me and my ability based on my appearance. So things are just always that much more harder.
But you're pretty incredible. I mean, what you've gone on to do here by just sort of raising awareness for this, but also using that tech mind in creating this app. And we spoke about this pay gap, this difference. And the way that you're going about tackling that is this Diversibility Card. So this is essentially an app which you download and then you can take it into shops and, well, you explain it.
Yeah, sure. So disabled people face many unavoidable extra costs. And I just didn't see anybody doing anything to solve the problem, especially when, you know, your capability to earn more money is based on of having a job. But as you know, disabled people are twice as likely to be unemployed. So the app enables disabled people to get discounts across everyday products and services. It's essentially what a student discount card is to students. We're launching in the next couple of months, but we've got amazing retailers signed up, and the disabled community is so excited for it.
So big businesses have said
Really
yes?
good. Yes.
And who's eligible?
Anybody that lives with a condition or impairment, and I really want to emphasise that there will be an eligibility process, but if you don't have the required documents, there are other ways, because I understand how difficult it is to actually get that verification as well.
And so today is Purple Tuesday.
Yes.
What's the importance of today?
Today is an awareness-raising day of the spending power that disabled people have, which is £274 billion to the UK economy.
So retailers, quite frankly, are being foolish here because they're missing out on this big market.
Absolutely. At least 20% of anybody's business are going to be are going to have disabled customers on top of their family and friends. So yeah, it's a great day to understand what disabled consumers want and need, and so many businesses are on board with it as well.
Going back to that Israeli minister,
Yeah.
how long do you think it's going to be before the penny will drop?
I think it's really difficult, because unless we don't really understand the scale of the exclusion and inequality that is happening in everyday society, then nothing's really going to change. And the real defining factor is disabled people aren't in positions of power. Sometimes we aren't even believed when we raise things, we raise our concerns. It's really hard as a person who is so marginalised to get that information across. So, you know, as an example, Jo Wiley, she was the person that enabled disabled people priority for the vaccine. She's a non-disabled person. There were so many millions of disabled people asking for the same thing, but it just goes to show the balance of the power and balance.
You told yourself when you were 16 that life was going to be a bit harder, but it doesn't have to be, does it? It shouldn't have to be.
It shouldn't have to be, no, not at all. And I just think, you know, in one way, I'm really glad that I learnt that lesson at that age and not, you know, later on in life, because I then made sure I went off to uni. I just felt I had to have a degree to fall back on. And I've just continually worked, you know, but I've worked in a very solutions-orientated way. I want to help people and businesses to understand disabled people and how to best meet our needs.
Well, it's lovely to meet you.
It
Thank
really
you so
is.
much, Shani.
Thank you.
Do you want to say hello
Thank
to your
you.
mum?
hi, Mum. And thank you for being amazing.
There you go.
You should be very proud of your daughter,
Thank you.
that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank